Very warm welcome to today's webinar. Today we're joined by myself, Liban. I work for IFF Training and Informa Connect Academy, and the lovely Mark Robson, who will be your trainer delivering the webinar today. Just as I said, I represent IFF Training and Informa Connect Academy, where we specialize in delivering tailored financial and professional development training for individuals and organizations around the world. Our aim is to equip professionals like yourselves with the practical tools and expertise needed to stay ahead in today's fast-moving business environment. So we're thrilled to have Mark Robson, who's a seasoned Excel expert and trainer with extensive experience helping professionals that demystify forecasting and turn Excel into a strategic asset. So over the next hour or so, Mark will be guiding you through a practical and engaging session packed with some case studies and examples, tips and techniques to help you forecast more confidently and accurately using Excel. So during this webinar, please feel free to drop any questions in the chat as we go along, and we'll aim to address these as the webinar goes ahead. So now, without further ado, let me hand over to Mark Robson, who will be able to take you through the webinar today. Thank you.
Hi, Liban. Thanks for the introduction. I love Excel, and I presume that we've got a few people on the call who like Excel. Liban, are you a fan of Excel?
I like Excel. I like the shortcuts.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite shortcut? Everybody's got to have one.
I like the control paste.
Control C for copy and then Control V for paste. That is a nice one, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I love the shortcuts too. Sometimes they can help you get into the flow of your work, and they can help you make your day go a little bit faster. Control C, Control V. I think shortcuts can be a little bit frightening sometimes, because when you start to Google them, you'll find out very quickly that there are hundreds. But I think the good news about shortcuts is that you only need a few. You only need a handful, I think, to be really proficient at Excel. Control C, Control V, got to be up there on the list. What about paste special? Sometimes you want to paste something that's a bit special, like just the formats or just the values. There's a few different versions of the Control paste special one, which is a good favorite for me as well. So Control C, Control V, Control Alt V. Control down on your keyboard, then Alt, then V. That'll get the paste special up really quick for you as well. So on the courses, we do cover some of the shortcuts, the ones that I find most helpful, some of the ones people know already, and then there's always a few that we can add to those. But yeah, I think the good news about shortcuts is you only need a few. But it's not the big topic of today. We've got some fans on the course today, on the snapshot today, and we've got some people who have their own shortcuts that they like using as well, which will help us along. Today we've got a special topic, which is scenarios. And for some people on the call, some people will know a lot of shortcuts, some people will know fewer. For some people on the call, they'll be all over this scenarios thing. So for them, today will be a chance to check in and make sure they've got it all covered. And there might be one or two new things for a few people on the call as well. It's not going to be a especially long call. I'm going to point you to some of the materials I've got, and for those people who've pre-registered for today's event, the materials will come across to you, and you can dive into them in a bit more detail should you want to. But today's going to be a quick curated guide to some of the main techniques that will help you get scenarios right in your models. You can see probably on screen, I've got a brief slide pack. It's running down about a dozen pages, so there's not a lot of pages there. We've allocated half an hour to go through that, but it probably won't take all of that time, pointing you to some of the deeper materials that are lodged online that cover these topics. Today is a quick guide. Now, I've got 4 main points for you today to go through. So when we're getting to number 4, you'll know that we're getting towards the end. 4 main things to check in on and make sure that you're getting those right, and some materials to take away that are going to be sent to you after today's event. So a little bit about me. You can tell I'm an Excel fan. I've got my own favorite shortcuts. I think, Liban, for me, Control R to fill something right. So if you put something in your spreadsheet and then you select across, Control R will fill that across for you, and I'm sure there's a few people on the call who've got their own favorites, but I'm the Control R guy. Got a background in using Excel for in excess of 30 years, would you believe it or not? Back to when Excel was sort of fresh out of the gate, and I was as well. And all through that time, I've been using Excel for deals modeling in some different contexts, including in M&A advisory work, including in Big Four accounting, and within that in specialist modeling teams, where you see a lot of stuff go down. So yeah, I think one of the things that I like about Excel is that there always seems to be something new to learn. Excel is big, and it's got bigger as time's gone on, and there's always new things you can do with it. Maybe like golf. People tell me that they like golf. I don't play, but people tell me that they like golf because you can never get the perfect round of golf. There's always a little bit of room for improvement. And I think it's the same with Excel and your Excel work. You always look at something and go, oh, I could have done this next time, or I could have done that. So it's one of the things that keeps us engaged with it, I think. 4 topics for today. Let's have a look at those. One of the things I want to talk about with respect to scenarios is some basics of Excel layouts that will help. This is not a biggie. I think as we go through the 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe it'll get slightly more technical, but we're going to look quickly at some Excel layouts that help. I've got a couple of on-screen Excel examples for you. The role of a data picking solution in that, we'll find out more about that shortly. Getting the outputs of your scenario displaying side by side. So I have come across occasions where people have got a piece of work on one tab, and then to get scenario 2 and scenario 3, or there may be more than that established, what they do is they take that one tab and they copy it out 3 times. Or if it's something bigger, sometimes what they do is create 3 versions of their work. Now, the problem with that, 3 tabs in a model, running your 3 scenarios or 3 different copies of the model, is that each of those needs to be changed should you want to change your workings. And that means that in scenario 2 and scenario 3, we've got a potential source for some error. We've got to change it once in 1, once in 2, once in 3, and we've got to get that right each time. So we're looking at some better ways of running those scenarios and getting the outputs displaying without having to take copies of things, which means that you've suddenly got multiple copies of things that need to be maintained. Point number 4 is that to make all this work really well, you need a fully flexing model, and that's something that we cover on the Excel training course. It's not something we're going to get into too much today, but I can give you some takeaways on that one. So points 1, 2, 3, and 4. Lipan, are you keeping up so far?
I'm keeping up. I'm keeping up. Yes. Great points.
Good. It's good to have a sidekick on something like this. Thank you. Let's have a look at the point number 1 about outputs. And really, this is a very simple point. It's really going to help you in your work. And I know this is a basic one. If you keep your inputs in one place, so maybe they could be on one tab, maybe they could be shaded, those input cells could be shaded, collected up together. And when you're going to run scenarios, the things that are going to be changed that second time, that third time, it's going to be helpful if you've managed to get your assumptions, your inputs clustered together in one place in your model. It's going to help to stack them up perhaps. So they could be stacked up in that first little diagram. You can use your imagination. We can imagine we've got some inputs stacked up perhaps down the page, all in one place. And then for scenario 2, it becomes easier just to copy those. So Control C, Control V, our favorite shortcut. We can Control C the stack number 1, and we can paste it against that column in column number 2 and column number 3. So just having your assumptions brought together in one place, stacking them perhaps down the page, then next to each other across the page, will help you when you are going forward with running your scenarios. Collect up your inputs in one place and get them stacked up. Now, I'm not fussy. I'm not too pedantic. I'm probably pedantic about a few things. I think that's a characteristic of Excel people. I don't mind in this case whether you stack them across the page or down the page. Either might work. Let's have a look at a really tiny little simple example where that's happening. And all I'm doing now is just illustrating the point that it helps to stack things in a particular way. So this is the smallest model in the world we've got today. I'm working on one at the moment, which is a lot bigger than this. And I'm sure people on the call are working on things which are a lot bigger than this as well. Now, this is a model where we've got one assumption. Can you imagine that? And you can see that we've got a medium case here. We've got a high case and a low case. And we're stacking them down the page in this case. So they're running down the page, but equally you could stack them across. And then so we sort of covered point number one, which is get your assumptions in one place, and then the group of assumptions that you're going to change, stack them down the page or across the page like we've done here in this little example. Well, we've got a little challenge coming up, Liban, for people on the call. We're going to ask them to pop something in to the Q&A. If people on the call, if you look down the bottom there, if it's like my Zoom, you've got participants across the bottom, then chat. We've already got a few things arriving in chat. And then if you go across at the bottom of the Zoom call, you've got Q&A as well. So we're going to ask a question in the Q&A in a second. And maybe there'll be some people on the call who've got something to contribute. We're on to point number two now. Point number one was about clustering and stacking. Point number two is, what's a function in Excel? What's a function in Excel that's going to help us with this next step? Let me describe the challenge to you that we've got on screen. What we've got is a set of three assumptions, and I've established this drop-down box here, which is something, again, if you don't know about it, we learn about on the training. This drop-down box here, it will toggle between high, medium, and low. So I can use that little box to pick between the high, medium, and low scenario. So do you see what I've got going on here? I've listed out my scenario names. I've got the values against each of those scenarios. And then what I've got is this little box that allows me to select. Now, I didn't prep Liban for this, but if I want, if I pick the medium scenario, Liban, what I want appearing downstream in the rest of my work is the value of 5%. Liban, I'm putting you on the spot. If I pick on high, if I select high, what's the value that I need running through the model? Can you see it? I should have got him to practice this one, shouldn't I? How about 7%, Liban? You think it might be that?
Sorry, I was on mute. 7%? Yes.
That was the problem. And Liban, big moment for you. If I pick the low one, what do I want arriving downstream?
3%.
3%. Excellent. I knew I had the right guy on the call today. So do you see what I want here? I want a little function that's sitting below that next box that will pick out of this table either 7, 5, or 3, depending on what's going on in that box. Now, the question for people on the call today is, what function might we use to rise to that challenge? Again, the challenge is we select from here, low, medium, or high. Depending on that, what kind of function is going to help us pick out 753 from the list? Write your function into the Q&A now, and we'll see what comes up. There's a whole range of functions that you might use, and I think this is one of the points is there's not a particularly right answer. There's a range of answers for this. Maybe some are slightly better than others. Let's think about when you first started using Excel and you had a big old table of data, and it's got some things across the top and it's got some things down the side, and you're looking at the intersection of where this meets this. What you need is some kind of favored or favorite data picking solution that will allow you to pick a piece of data out of the table. I'm just talking to allow you some time to plonk your one into the Q&A. What's your favorite data picking solution? What might you gravitate towards to solve this particular problem? What's your favorite data picking solution? Stick it into the Q&A right now. We're talking about the sort of function that will allow you to look into this table here and pick out 7, 5, or 3, depending on what's in that drop-down box. You're going to need a solution like that to survive your Excel life. And now when we're trying to run these scenarios, we want one of those data picking solutions in the next step down. You'll see what I've done in a second, but right now just pop into the Q&A. What's your favorite data picking solution? What could somebody use right now to get the right data in the chat?
We've got a couple coming through.
Hey, so we've got RD who's come up with some top answers. There's a whole range of things that you could use. There's more on top of that. Have we got a few more arriving?
Yeah, a lot of the participants are putting them in the webinar chat. We've got a couple where they've put index, who's, cell reference, pickup list.
Brilliant. I think there's some
coming in.
great creative examples arriving. Excel gives us, keep putting those answers in, folks, while I talk. I'm just buying us all some time. Excel gives us an embarrassment of riches sometimes. Sometimes it's a little bit bamboozling. Which one should we go for? I suppose there's some good news here. In a way, it doesn't really matter. In a way, it doesn't really matter. The point here is that there's lots of data picking solutions that could help us in building out our scenarios once we've got our assumptions in the right place. Any more coming, Liban? Somebody's put XLOOKUP, which I love, which is a newer one. I think sometimes that can be really elegant. If you're somebody who, like me, first learned to use VLOOKUP, which has already arrived in our list of possibles, if you learned about VLOOKUP to do this kind of exercise, I guarantee you'll love XLOOKUP. It's just nicer to use than VLOOKUP. It's a little bit more powerful. But anyway, the point right now is there's a whole range of data picking solutions, and you probably just need to be comfortable with one. Whatever your go-to data picking solution, at the step 2 of getting our scenarios together, it's that data picking solution we will want to take advantage of. Liban and I didn't practice this. I'm putting him on the spot. How are you on pressure about pressure, Liban? You laugh in the face of pressure?
Yes, I laugh at the face of pressure.
You laugh at the face of pressure. What's arrived on our list from our attendees?
So I've got a couple. So we have pickup, some ifs, power query, web scraping.
Brilliant. Okay, some brilliant ideas coming up. I'm loving them all. Coming after the what was that one?
XLOOKUP, range as well.
Yeah, okay. There's a whole bunch of them. You'll see what I've used in a second. I think if you want to differentiate between something that will do the job and something that will do the job a little bit better, just try and look for the short solution. Here, let's have a look at a list that I put together, and it's not a complete list. There's more coming up on the call than even on my list, and you'll get this coming out to you after the course. But in terms of a data picking solution, here's a whole bunch. Liban, can you see on screen at A22, what was one of my solutions?
A22, using index.
Using index. Next one down, just read them out for us. It keeps it a little bit fresher.
Using choose.
Choose. If this is low, then we want 3% coming out. If this is medium, then we want 5% out. There's a whole list here. You'll get this record after the call, but whatever your favorite data picking solution is, what you want to do is drop that function into there. Somebody said index and match quite quickly. You can see I've separated those two out. I've got the match piece going on here that's telling me it's number 2. And then index is giving me the second one in the list. And so that's getting the 5% that I want in the right place when we're the medium. Here's the embedded if. Here's something that's a bit better than that. Now, you just need one of these that will work. And down the side here, I've looked at them in terms of character length. And if you want to differentiate between them, then maybe some of the shorter ones. Some of them get a bit long. I mentioned XLOOKUP. I think somebody said some. So there's a whole bunch of them. But the point is you only need one. You only need one. And right now we're in good shape. Point 1 of our session today was you want to collect up your assumptions and cluster them together. Here we've stacked them down the page. Point number 2 is you want to make use of your favorite data picking solution. Maybe go for one of the shorter ones if yours is looking a bit long. And you want to drop that in the box just down here to make sure you've got the 5% arriving. So right now we've got a model that this is the smallest model in the world, but we're certainly set up to throw scenarios through this because we've got them stacked, because we're making use of our data picking solution in the smallest model in the world. It's operating quite nicely. Each time it's throwing 3%, 5%, or 7% through the balance of our work. So we've covered points 1 and 2. Points 1 and 2, collect up your assumptions, stack them nicely like we have on the page here. Point number 2, make use of your favorite data picking solution. Now we're suddenly going to get a little bit more challenging with what we're covering. Are you okay with that, Liban?
All good.
I've got a good feeling. Okay, so let me just look at where we're up to with our slides. We stacked them up. We used our favorite data picking solution there, and we got the 3, 5, or the 7 running through the model. Point number 3, this is where it gets a bit tricky. What I was saying earlier was, let's look at our micro model. What we don't want to do is take 3 copies of this piece of work here. We don't want to take 3, we could copy this tab out 3 times. We could save 3 versions of a bigger version of this. We don't want to take 3 copies of this in any way, shape, or form, because that'll mean each of those copies needs to be updated manually. So we're going to get a little bit more technical now. Getting the results displaying side by side. Let me get my next example up for you quickly. And it's a little bit bigger than the one we've just looked at, but it's the same sort of thing. Let me just get the whole thing on screen. It'll only take me a second. Okay, so this one takes the model build in a slight step further. This one has been structured slightly differently. I've got scenario 1, 2, and 3 down here. It's picking from the familiar 7, 5, and 3. And I'm using my favorite data picking solution, probably, which is index, to pull out the correct number. It's stepping down through the calculations. So we've got a start point for revenue. Again, still very, very simple, more simple than the work that you, me, and everybody else is handling in real life. We've got a start point for revenue. We're applying some kind of gross margin. That gives us our costs, and we've got a profit line. So again, a tiny, tiny little model, but it's functioning quite nicely. We've got the box, and it's throwing those things through. And every time our outputs are displaying here, and what we're wanting to do is get 3 copies of that side by side. Well, you'll see I've managed to do that. I'll give you a quick run through one of the ways of doing that right now, but this is one of the ways of getting the results displaying side by side that saves you falling into this trap of taking 3 copies of a tab or 3 copies of a complete model, each of which has got the switch flicked in a slightly different way, each of which has to be maintained. Now, there's a bit of functionality called data tables in Excel, and I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to those. I'm going to show you how those work, and you'll have a link to the full set of materials that cover this after the program. And then there's a coding example as well. So there's 2 main ways that I'm giving you to solve this challenge of getting the results of the 3 runs of the model displaying side by side. One is data tables, and one is writing a little bit of what's called VBA macro code. So we're going to look at those quickly, and it might fly past you, but remember, you'll get access to these materials after the program, presumably, assuming you pre-registered. Well, let's have a look at the data tables example and how to get that one up and running nicely. The instructions are listed down the page, and we'll send those through after the program. But let's just delete out what's going on here. This is the data tables area here. So to get my one line displaying, what I need to do is set up a special kind of table called a data table using these instructions down here. And what it will do is it will help me get those revenue results displaying side by side for numbers 1, 2, and 3. So step number 1 is at row 34. Link the outputs from line 25 down to the top of the table. Control R using my favorite shortcut there. And then what you need to do, this is the next step. Type the scenario numbers down the side here. I'm just showing you this once, but you'll get this example sent through to you. Then the next step at row 36 is select everything that's in that whole area. And then we go up into our Excel, data, what if analysis. Don't worry if this flies by pretty quickly, because you've got the list of instructions there, and I think you'll be able to follow them yourself, just like I'm following them right now. Row 38 there in the instructions says, leave the row input blank. If you're used to data tables, this is a special application of them. Normally you'd put something in there, but in this example, we leave it blank. Column input cell, we're going to wire up to the scenario number in C10. And Liban, you might not be easily impressed, but I think this is pretty impressive, because when I click on OK now, what it's giving me is this, it's giving me something weird. that is unlike any Excel formula you'll normally see. It's just indicative of the fact we've got this juicy, for some of us might be new functionality in Excel running, and what that functionality is doing is it's just as if I'm flicking the switch here. Do you see if I run through scenario 1, the scenario 1 results match. If I run through scenario 2 and so on, that this thing really is doing its job properly. Let's have a look at what I do if I change some of my workings. So if I just make everything a little bit more attractive, this has automatically updated. So it's very, very clever. Liban, I'm just teasing you. We didn't practice this. Is there any such thing as a free lunch?
No.
No. I mean, this is sort of sounding a little bit too good to be true, isn't it? Maybe it is. The data tables are super attractive. You can see what it's doing. It's a number one way of getting the outputs showing side by side. There is a catch. There is a catch. The work that these are doing is a little bit hard on Excel. So you're sort of you're taxing Excel power right now, and you might be starting to run out in a big model. So I think these come with a little bit of a warning that if your model is getting big, as many of our models do, then you might want to go for option number 2. Option number 1 is working beautifully on screen today, but one of the reasons it's working is because our model is very, very small. And when we get into real life work, these data tables are quite taxing. They will sap your Excel power. So that's why we need an option number 2 up our sleeves. And I'm going to go through this one really quickly as well.
I was going to say, Mark, there was just a comment by one of the delegates, Benoit. He said, in his experience, data tables do not work with full dynamic arrays models. Can you touch on that slightly?
No, he's absolutely right. And I think he knows a few things. Yeah, exactly. So when things start to get big and complicated, as they often do, then you're going to run out of road with your data tables, which is why we might need a solution like this next one here. Yeah, thanks for that contribution. That was brilliant. And thanks for raising it up. Right, well, the next one is to run a little bit of VBA code. And again, I'm going to fly through this one quickly. I've already built the code, and it will come out in this example to you. It's helpful to have a piece of code like this up your sleeve if you haven't got it already. So what the code is going to do is it's going to replicate this process. It's what we're going to ask the code to do is sit there and flick the switch. So it's just as if you flick the switch, and it's going to copy from this area here, paste into this area. So we're using code to automate something that's quite repetitive and manual in Excel. Today, what we're just doing is sitting here flicking a switch, and then we're copying the information from here, and Control-Alt-V, paste special values. We're going to paste it into there, and we're going to do that 3 times. Now, if I was to do that on the call right now, which I'm not going to, that would be quite laborious. Liban, this morning, I've been working on a model that is built for 150 entities. It's built for 150 entities. And the model requires somebody, me, because I'm working on it, to flick the switch 150 times, copy and paste the outputs. It's a huge model. It's a huge data table. It would be a huge data table. It would sync the model if we tried to use data tables to do this. But the model, no surprises, is flicking the switch 150 times, pasting the outputs out 150 times, and it works. It doesn't take that long to run. Let's have a look at what the code looks like. You'll get this coming out. It's attached to the spreadsheet. The shortcut for this one is Alt F11, and it brings up a code window like this. And what I've done is I've written this code and pasted it into the back of my spreadsheet, and you'll have a copy of this code. And it's a sort of a number 1 piece of code that you might need for this exercise, flicking a switch, copying the outputs, pasting them without having to do that automatically. It's not too hard to read this code, even if you're not used to this sort of stuff. The green is the guidance, which is giving you a few comments on what the code is doing. So you can see that at the end, it's going to display a message box to let people know what's happened. it's going to put the scenario number back to what it already was. So it's going to take a record of the scenario number. So by reading the code, what you can do is, because it's been annotated in these green notes, you can get a feeling for what it's doing. Then it's creating some sort of loop. So it's going through something. It's going to run for 3 times. You can see that down there. And each time it's going to run the loop, copy the outputs and paste them down. So this piece of code is good to have up your sleeve. I went to AI, which is great for helping us write the code. So I did this before I jumped on the call, and I have been using Cloud AI, like I know some software programmers are using it at the moment to help me with VBA, and it's great. It gives you a great start. It's certainly easier than just simply Googling, but and it does a really good job. It's very variable what you'll get out of an assistant like this, but it certainly gives you a good start. And the answer you get varies greatly depending on what exact prompts you give it. You need to experiment a little bit. And I think Cloud. I didn't rehearse my interaction with the Cloud before the call. I literally did it 5 minutes before. I gave it a good description. So I do recommend that you access something like this if you're not already, to help you write your VBA code. It'll give you some good ideas. I'm slightly suspicious that Cloud's code is not quite as clean as mine is, but maybe that's a bit unfair. But there's a sort of an interactive process. You can use your own brain versus the AI to see if you can get it a little bit cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. But AI is great for getting you started versus the traditional plain old Googling. And you know, I'm using it at the moment, but I'm still thinking, can I do a bit of a better job? Right, well, let's run the code. So right now we updated our inputs. The data table adjusted automatically, but that sapped a little bit of Excel power, especially in a big model, to do this. And what we're going to do now, noticing that these ones have strayed out of date compared to the data table, boom, we're going to run that code. Did you see how fast that went? It's already, we've got a little message box popping up to remind us that something's actually happened here. And we can see that the results have updated automatically and are matching our check that we've got in here. Let's put it back to what it was, 3, 5, 7. The data table updates automatically. We'll take those results out. But what the code loop will do is it'll copy and paste first into there and then into there and so on. And it takes almost no time in this size model to do that. And we can see the results are matching. So you've got 2 main ways there of getting those results displaying. Maybe some of that's new to you, maybe some of it's not. If it's not new, then you've got something to take away. If it is new, then you've got something to take away. If it's not new, then you've checked in on this and you know you're doing everything right. Just reflecting the point that we had out of one of our delegates earlier, the big advantage of the macro solution, the big advantage of the code solution is that it'll only run when you press that button. So it only has to work when you press that button. This one is working all the time as you keep changing your Excel model, and that can put a bit of a load on the model. This one, the load is limited to the moment when you press that, and we can see it's all over in a flash. So that's the attraction of the code route for something like this, is that it will limit the amount of Excel juice that needs to be used to run that.
And just to touch on that, Mark, from Benoit, he's asked, is VBA better than Office scripts for this?
I think VBA works absolutely fine. I think Microsoft seems to be a little bit against VBA. I'm all for simple solutions to the challenges that we're working with. And, you know, VBA is tried and tested. I think it's got a finite life. Well, I know it's got a finite life. Microsoft said it's going to stop support for it. But at the moment, you could see that how extensive my code was. It's a very limited piece of code that will get you a long way ahead in getting these scenarios running side by side. So at the moment, I would stick with what works and I would just use that tiny little bit of code to get it running. But yeah, it's not going to be there forever. Another great question. Thank you. Right, I'm slightly conscious of the time, but we're sort of 3/4 the way through what we wanted to talk about, which is great. Here's where we've got to so far. I've said it enough times, collecting up your inputs, data picking, using one of those solutions. The macro one is the one that will reduce the load on your model, so that's a good thing. Point number 4, the model should be flexing. So there's no use and there's no benefit to having our inputs, our data picking, our calculations, our outputs displaying side by side. There's no use in that. And if that middle piece isn't a fully flexing model. So if you've got a bunch of hard-coded numbers, if your working capital, if you're modeling a business is not adapting every time you change revenue, if there's no flex in your model, then all of this structuring and hard work is not going to get you any further ahead. Your working capital piece will just stay the same if it's a whole bunch of fixed numbers. So there's a big sort of overarching point to what we're doing on the call today, which is a big subject. The model itself, the guts of the model itself. Today it was just revenue times a gross margin, but the full model needs to be a nicely flexing beast where your P&L, your balance sheet, and cash flow are all talking to each other properly. If you'd like to read a little bit more about that, that's coming out in some of the materials to you. Let's have a look at the materials that are coming your way. We've got a main handout here, and there's a series of links in this handout. But all I wanted to say was you've got a handout coming to you that takes you through the 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got some spreadsheet examples, the ones I showed you on screen. So there's a depth of resource there that's available to you after what we covered today, including the macro code that you saw. So the handout will be coming out to you with some links to in-depth articles on each of these topics, data picking solutions, the code that you need to run that macro, all coming out to you after today's call. Thank you for your patience. Apologies that we had those technical difficulties. We're running this program, a modelling program over 3 days in London in December. I'd love to see you on that if that's your cup of tea and if you can make it. And we'll be live in a room together, so we don't have to worry about any crashes. Liban, was there anything else that you wanted to say?
No, I think if you'd like to share your screen, you should be able to now. But just on my end, just wanted to thank everyone for joining the webinar. Just in terms of the handout, you'll be receiving the handout that Mark was going through just before we got cut off, as well as some extra materials that is useful for mastering Excel forecasting. What I'd also like to do now is for those that are in the webinar at the moment, I'm just going to pop up a poll, and that poll is just for you to answer whether you'd like to be contacted or would your team benefit from a tailored financial modeling course delivered by Mark himself, in-house or virtually. So if you could just pop one of your answers from the poll, and we'd be more than happy to support your training and learning journey with financial modeling. So please do vote on the poll that's up on the screen now. And just for everyone to see on the screen, there is the upcoming course that Mark was talking about. That is happening on the 8th to the 10th of December. Should you be interested in joining that course, please do get your phones out now and use the QR codes that will take you directly to the website. And like Mark said as well, all handouts from this session will be sent across to you. And we really do appreciate you taking your time to join this webinar today. So thank you very much. Just give everyone time to answer. Fantastic. Thank you all for answering that poll. Really do appreciate it. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Please do engage with our posts on IFF Training on LinkedIn. Do visit our website, IFF Training, as well as Informa Connect Academy. We do have a lot of technical finance and professional development skills training to support yourself and your organization. So should you ever be interested, please do give us a call, drop us an email. We'll be more than happy to support your team and your organization with any training needs that you may have. So thank you for joining this afternoon and have a great rest of your day.